The story begins in Hell's Kitchen, where Daredevil encounters the Punisher violently interrogating a junkie for information on the Magia gang led by the mob boss Silvermane. Not wanting his source of information to get away, the Punisher fired a powerful tranquilizer dart at the hero. While he intended just to knock him unconscious with the dart, fate took a turn for the worse as Daredevil just happened to be too close to the building's edge when the dart was fired. Its effects enacted immediately, causing the hero to tumble off the roof, plummeting to his death, much to the horror of the Punisher. Daredevil's body was then taken to the nearby morgue, where the doctors discovered he was in fact lawyer Matt Murdock. It was not long before the Kingpin's men were relayed news of this hero's death and identity, and delivered this revelation to the mob boss. Shocked at this news, the Kingpin began to devise a plan now that his nemesis was no longer there to oppose him. Back at the Nelson and Murdock law office, Foggy and the rest of the group mourned the loss of their friend who worked so hard over the years to bring criminals to justice. Just then, they were greeted by none other than Spider-Man, who sought confirmation of the hero's passing. Daredevil was one of Spider-Man's closest friends and allies, and to receive word of this news was truly heartbreaking for this fellow superhero. Blaming himself for what happened, Spider-Man vowed to avenge this death by stopping the Punisher and bringing him into custody. We then meet back up with Frank Castle, who has tracked a group of drug dealers on a nearby boat. Just as he loads his weapon to confront the dealers, the Punisher is then intercepted by Spider-Man, who webs he and his weapon to the wall. During the commotion, the Punisher managed to escape the webbing and evade Spider-Man long enough to escape. Knowing he was after him for what he did to Daredevil, he chalks it up to simply a casualty of war. His war on the mob. Later on, Foggy then meets with reporter Ben Urich, where they talk about Matthew's death and the war on crime. Wanting to continue the good work that Matt left behind, Foggy gives Ben highly important incriminating evidence linking several city councilmen with the mob. Astounded by this information, the pair work together to get it printed on the front pages of the Daily Bugle. We then cut forward to the Punisher, who has tracked down another informant for the Mafia. As he mercilessly beats the man, he is once again confronted by Spider-Man, who vows to bring him into custody. As the pair fight, the Punisher fires a wave of tranquilizer darts at Spider-Man. Knowing his spider sense allows him to effortlessly dodge the bullets, the Punisher purposefully lures Spider-Man into the air with the tranquilizers and pulls a pistol loaded with real bullets right at the last second, and fires it right into a major artery in the wall crawler's shoulder, instantly wounding him. Shocked that the Punisher used lethal force on him, Spider-Man attempts to get medical attention, where he proceeds to pass out from blood loss on the sidewalk below. Upon being taken to the hospital, Spider-Man was unmasked, and his identity as Peter Parker was announced to the entire city. The following morning, Aunt May picked up the local paper, where she was shocked at this revelation. Just then, a blast from an RPG rockets into the house, killing her instantly. The blast came from Mafia members who believed Peter to be home at the time. The delighted murderers then drive off, believing they had killed Spider-Man. As the news continues to unfold about the local politician and their ties to the mob, New York citizens began to protest them, demanding that they leave office. Things got so bad that even the current mayor had to step down due to his personal ties. The Manhattan Borough President, Theodore Mason, was a vocal member of the protest who vowed to help end things. He became popular and was elected into office seemingly right away. Watching all of this unfold, reporter Ben Urich watched on at Peter Parker recovering in his hospital bed, amazed that this unseemly photographer was none other than Spider-Man. Being granted a bodyguard at this time due to the dangerous information he leaked, Ben, the bodyguard, and Foggy all proceed to leave the hospital, where suddenly a gunshot rings out, leaving the bodyguard, Ben, and Foggy all dead. We then cut back to the Punisher, who has finally tracked down the head of the Silvermane gang and attempts to finally put an end to things. Seemingly not scared at all of Frank Castle, The mob leader tells him that all of this political news has left the mafia in shambles, with their political figureheads in hiding and their leaders dead. He informs Frank that there has been someone behind the strings who has made the mob a shell of its former self. Suddenly to Frank, everything started to make sense. The gang war, the protest, and even the new mayor was all orchestrated by someone from the shadows, that someone being none other than the Kingpin. Enraged, the Punisher then goes to confront the Kingpin, where he is then greeted by a familiar voice. It is none other than an enraged Peter Parker who is finally awoken from his injuries. Knowing the fate of his aunt, Peter lunges at Frank, vowing to end him for what he has done. Not holding back, Peter pummels Castle, who is astounded at the truth strength of Spider-Man. He fights back with all that he has, but it is not enough to stop Parker, who proceeds to knock the Punisher out. He then grabs him and crawls to the top of a nearby building. As Castle awakens, he knows Spider-Man is ready to kill him. As Peter holds him above his head, ready to end the life of the murderer, the Punisher calls out, telling Peter he had important information on his Aunt May. Peter then suddenly hesitates, tears running down his face as he momentarily breaks through his hysteria. Before he can say anything, the Punisher then uses this opening to unload a barrage of gunfire right into Peter's heart, killing him instantly. Saddened at the death of Spider-Man, Frank shrugs it off and vows to finish his mission to end the Kingpin once and for all. We are then taken to Kingpin's penthouse suite, where he is greeted by none other than the new mayor, Theodore Mason, who was working for Fisk this whole time. The men hear a crash, where they encounter a bloody and beaten Punisher armed with only a knife, who plans to kill them both. Overpowering him in this weakened state, the Kingpin slaps the knife away and grabs Frank by the throat and begins to crush it with his bare hands. As the life slips away from him, Frank informs him that he always has a backup plan. The Kingpin then snaps Frank's neck and discovers a mysterious package left by him in the luggage box. This package ended up being an explosive left by Frank, which explodes upon discovery, blowing up the entire penthouse, leaving the Kingpin, the Punisher, and their wave of terror finally over.